Well, everybody, how's it going? It's a Friday night, and there's a few people already here in here. So I always like to just chat for a few minutes while people enter into this live stream here, and really excited to just kind of get. I feel like I'm really starting to get back in the saddle again, and I have so many things I want to talk about. And there's some sad things that are sad too. And by the way, if you're watching, just let me know that you can hear me okay in the chat. If you could hop in the chat. It's extraordinarily hot here in Florida. We are under a heat advisory today in Florida, which is kind of like being under a freeze warning in Alaska. So it's even too hot for Florida. Paul Black says loud and clear. Thank you, Paul. And so yeah, we've been, and then my mom, she's the president of the HOA here. We have a leak. We had to shut off our water, and then we had all these plumbers say they couldn't do the job. Oh, we can't do the job. So two of our handymen who live in the park, they did it. They took care of it. So it just goes to show. They said, why could you guys fix this leak? And the plumbers couldn't. He said, well, they didn't want to get dirty. Many plumbers are prima donnas. Carolyn says, good to be here. Well, glad to have you here, Carolyn. By the way, if you all want to leave in the chat, I think it was last week or the week before, somebody was in England, or it was London or England. And I said, did you stay up? Because it says 1 o'clock in the morning here. I said, did you stay up just to watch the live stream? They're like, yeah. I'm like, really? Wow, that's pretty crazy. So yeah, worldwide here on Mormon Book Reviews. How was everybody's week? Mine's been adventurous. I kind of going to get all caught up. I also want to tell you the story about this really cool t-shirt. Look at that. That's so freaking awesome. I got this in the mail yesterday. It's an early birthday present, and I'm going to talk about that shirt because it's just like one of those cool things. This is Smith Rigdon 44. That's when Joseph Smith ran for president. Remember, Joseph Smith is the very first presidential candidate ever to be assassinated in American history. Summer Rain says, hey, Steve, good to see you. Good to see you too, Summer. Glad that your interview with one of the Black Menaces and yourself and Matt Harris, I've heard a lot of good about that one. Of course, we'll be having Matt Harris on soon to talk about his book, Second Class Saints, as well. And so, yeah, just been going through a lot here. So we're a couple minutes in. There's a few people here now. So I think we'll just get started on this whole thing. I always just write down a few notes a few minutes before I get started. Make sure I cover everything. And I do want to talk about the tragedy of Adams Road, the Christian ministry that I guess is no more. It's just a sad story. And I want to address that because I was reluctant to, but then I've seen that Sean McCraney has been doing a couple things about it recently. But then I saw that Sandra Tanner posted something about it yesterday. Eric Johnson did yesterday, and others have. So other people are talking, and I thought, okay, well, it's part of the conversation. It's out there. So I felt it was fine to talk about tonight. But I just want to give everybody real quick. I want to let everybody know, and I don't want to make this about me. I really don't like this show to be about me. I like it to be about my guests. But, people have expressed their concerns about the health concerns I've been experiencing since early April. And this week, I actually went to my ENT, which was on Wednesday, ear, nose, and throat specialist, because we got our MRI results. I got some more quotes here. I'll stuff in the chat. I'll address you in a minute here. We went over my MRI results and my lab work, and my ear doctor, in addition to my primary care physician, ordered the lab work. My ENT actually did some stuff for autoimmune, particularly Lyme disease, to see if that's what's affecting the inner ear. So what I have is hypoacusis with tinnitus. It's a pretty extreme form. There's a high degree of suicide with this condition, and it was debilitating for a while there. It brought me to my knees, but I tell people maybe I needed to get on my knees, right? I think sometimes as men especially, we tend to have egos. And one of those ego things was I hadn't been to a doctor I hadn't had a checkup since I was in high school. Never, but I've been pretty good about taking care of myself. Lost a lot of weight about 7-8 years ago, kept it off. Used to be a cigarette smoker, quit smoking. I've actually been caffeine free for 2 months now, so I'm good. I'm a relatively disciplined person. And let me just read a few of these quotes here, and then we'll get back to the story. Carolyn asks, was he assassinated? I thought he was shot because he was trying to escape jail. No, actually, he was not trying to escape jail. He was he was in jail, and the jail was being rushed by the mob. And you really can't say him jumping out of the window was an escape. It was, if anything, he was trying to escape the killers, but he was killed when he jumped out of the window. Carolyn loved Adams Road. And Carolyn, we're going to talk about Adams Road because it's a sad story. Amy Baker says Joseph was martyred. Tinnitus is terrible. The Devo Bronc. Yeah, it is. And so I want to give people just, and I've told this before, imagine, and actually the weekend before last, I taped 4 episodes over the case of 48 hours, 6.5 hours worth. I'm actually retaping one of those interviews tomorrow. And I was able to do it. So I'm back to being able to do long form interviews again. And I've taped some more interviews this week. I taped something with Brian Stutzman on Wednesday and taped something with Gene Judson of Latter Daily Digest about our annual recap of all the happenings at this year's Sunstone. And he gives us a report what happened at Sunstone. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that too. And but imagine you're taping an interview and you're asking the question, you're answering, listening to the answer from your guest, and you're formulating the follow-up question while somebody's screaming in your ear. That's what it is. And being able to concentrate and just train the brain to ignore the screaming. Yeah, it kind of sucks, folks, but you know what? It ain't nothing for what I've gone through in my life. You know, Dr. Randy Bell, you know, who's an expert in PTSD, told me he's never talked to somebody that's experienced more PTSD than me, which is remarkable to think about because it's just my life. I don't think of myself as suffering PTSD, but I recognize that I do. But I also recognize I'm healed from it too. But that's what makes you very sensitive to people that are going through tough times. And especially when people are going through tough times, I always reach out to them because I know how important it is that people not feel alone when they're going through these tumultuous times in their life. Okay, Devo Bronx says, my only LDS temple frustration, oath to protect Joseph Smith Jr. was removed. Okay, yep. And Devo, can you tell me what year that was? I forget. Was that the changes that would happen in 1989, or would it have happened before or after that? Andrew SD says it was the oath to avenge Joseph and Hiram, not to protect. Oath to protect. Oh, okay, got it. Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Carolyn, been following your struggle. The Job path is difficult, but God sees and hears, and I've been living the Job life for nearly 5 years, my friend. Yeah, understood that. Actually, I've suffered lifelong depression almost my entire life, and was healed from it. Actually, last year I got myself off of antidepressants, and I was just taking Wellbutrin, and I've been fine. And even at the depths of the despair of me being bedridden because of this terrible condition, I was like saying nothing what I was going through before. So that's where we're at. So, and actually, just so you know, the lab works came through. I'm very healthy, except for high cholesterol, which runs in the family. I wasn't surprised by that. I had high cholesterol when last time I did blood work when I was a long time ago. But one discussion was about doing autoimmune testing. Apparently, I don't have Lyme disease, but there's a distinct possibility that I might have actually lost the hearing in my right ear due to COVID. That's a possibility that we're going to look into. So that's where we're going from there. So I just also wanted to address what my critics part of this whole thing. Okay, let me just read. Devo says, LOL, because PTSD is different. I have. One of it is from my military service, but lots from my family struggles. The VA loves me, in parentheses, not really. Yeah. And boy, people who've served in the military, my gosh, the trillions of dollars that were spent on these foolish wars and the broken lives it's unforgivable. This is coming from a lifelong Republican, but war is hell, and I'm an anti-war Republican, so I just wish there were more people like me in that regard. Okay, so I had a critic attack me in a private Facebook group a while back, and it was brought to my attention a little over a week or so ago, or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. And I kind of went after him a little bit. I was referring to him as Bobby Nygren. And I had people reach out to me who are mutual friends this past weekend and said, let me reach out to Bobby. We'll call him that. And again, Bobby Nygren, no relation to Richard Nygren. Just want to make that very clear. And that's not his real name. It's neither one of their real names. One of them is not even a real person. But they said, let me reach out because I'm like, hey, this guy's going to attack me and slander me and say vile things about me, total bigoted and homophobic remarks. I'm not saying that he's a homophobe or a bigot, but I'm saying he said these things that are homophobic and bigoted. Sometimes people say these things out of ignorance, so we need to be, forgiving in that sense. A lot of people have accused him of racism. I've never accused him of racism. I've accused him of maybe being misguided. I'm trying to be gentle here. So I was going to kind of go after him a little bit more to expose a lot of the corruption and lies that were happening in this whole thing, but also with an olive branch saying, listen, I believe in restoration. Restoration. Yeah, I do believe in restoration. Restitution. I believe in forgiveness. Second, third, fourth, fifth chances in many cases, depending on the person. Jesus says to forgive 70 times 7. And I'm also willing to look in the mirror as well. And if this person were to come to me and say, these are some issues I have with you, of course, I would listen to what they'd have to say. That's what Christians are supposed to do. I'm just trying to get Christians to be Christian, folks. Right? It's not that difficult. Follow the scriptural blueprints that we have. Let's see. Okay. Yep. And so that's kind of what I just want to update, that I haven't done anything since last Friday because these people who are both well-known people, and I've actually had other people reach out to me who've also reached out to on my behalf saying, you need to talk to Steve. You need to, I've said, hey, so-and-so, if you want to sit on the Zoom and he trusts you and I trust you, let's try to, come, let us reason together. This is not difficult to do. These are so-called, and again, this is the issue I have. There's a segment of Mormon apologists that hate me, and there's a segment, or I hate saying hate, segment of Mormon apologists that don't like me and don't want to talk to me. And there's a certain segment of Christian apologists, the exact same thing. They are the same people. They are two heads on the same coin, or whatever it is. Same two sides, whatever. I don't care. And they don't realize how much alike they all are, and they hate each other too. What's this crazy? I don't want to use hate. It's more of an expression. And so my heart goes out to these poor apologists who are just, whether it's the Christian apologists or let's say evangelical apologists, because I don't want to say what's a Christian, who's a true Christian, who's a true Scotsman. I don't want to get into that, or a true Irishman. I want to be able to just sit down and talk to these people. And again, anything that I've said about them pales in comparison to the stuff they said about me. Okay. I just want to make that very clear. What they have said publicly and or semi-publicly in private groups pales in comparison. What I've said pales in comparison. So they can't really be mad at me, because I mean it's vile. I've never gone down. I will never attack somebody based on the food they eat, the people that they love in their life. I'm a very live and let live libertarian Christian, and I'm, as long as you're honest in your dealings with me. And what I would disagree with maybe what their beliefs are, or what their opinions are, or what their views are, and we can agree to disagree in many ways and be agreeable. And they don't want to do any of that. They don't want to have just civil conversations. They think that everything is just, we're in some big battle and we got to fight each other. And it's just insane. And then they wonder, why is this country going to pot? It's because we have been set up to fight each other. And we need to stop. Fellow image bearers, quit fighting each other. Come on. All right. Okay, what would Jesus do? Thanks for Carolyn. Carolyn says, just watch a video where Phil Robertson, Duck Dynasty, I believe, said, God is judge. My job is to love. Yeah, so that's not, I can stand behind that. So, okay, we're going to move on from the critic stuff, because I don't really like what it does to me. But I'm waiting to hear back from these gentlemen who've offered to reach out to me. And I told them, I said, look, odds are they're not going to want to talk to me, because I've spent years trying to talk to these people. And if you want to give it a shot, and I made a good faith effort by not posting a video that I would have posted this week. And I said, okay, I won't post it. And let's see if he talks. But again, I don't think anything's going to come of it. But I do believe in miracles. So we have to go, maybe there's a possibility. Okay. Let me talk about Sunstone, then I want to talk about Adams Road. We're not going to talk about Sunstone too long because it's already been done, but I did tape a show yesterday with Gene Dodson, and I just wanted to actually show you something that was posted on my Facebook page earlier today. because honestly, I think it's so freaking cool. So obviously, I was not able to make Sunstone. I was not able to make an appearance at Sunstone or anything, but it turns out I did. And it was done via a painting by my friend Cheryl Bruno. She did a painting of 20 different people and put them on display at Sunstone. What was so cool about it was I saw that she had done this thing. I even thought, oh, I wonder if she did me. And then I kind of glanced at it and it's like, oh, it looks like she's doing all these really famous scholars. Turns out she did, I think I counted about 20 paintings. And it's a mix of, it's primarily Mormon people in the Mormon studies, Mormon scholarship and history community, and people in the Mormon podcast community. As I counted, 17 were in the Mormon studies community, and 3 were podcasters. So, and you would know all the names of these people. There was like Don Bradley, there was Robin Jensen, and you just the Blights, and I mean, the list goes on and on of all these prominent people, many of who've been on my show. Every single one of these people I've met or have been on my show. But then they did 3 podcasters. They did John DeLynn, of course, and again, this is Cheryl Bruno that did all these paintings. John DeLynn, Radio Free Mormon, and myself was featured on this display at Sunstone. So, Cheryl, I just want to say I really appreciate you, and we're going to talk on the phone this weekend. She's going to do some work with me. We're going to do she's going to co-host with me for a very special episode. What do you think of the painting? What do you think of it, guys? I think I love it. I think it's so freaking cool. And actually, let me just show you some of the other paintings. So I just want you to see like the paintings she did. So that was that was the display at Sunstone. And then there we go. So here, hold on. I got this, folks. I got this. It's a little weird. So we got, Todd Compton. I mean, look, it's just these are John DeLynn and John Hychek and Lindsay Hansen Park, and there's Robin Jensen, and there's our guy Don Bradley. And there's, I mean, look, I'm just look at, like, everybody knows who these people are, right? And I'm just there's Christopher. I think that's Benjamin Schaefer. I think his beard's a little longer now. Natasha Hafner, and then there's Radio Free Mormon, and I think that I'm not sure if that's Bryce Blankenagel or I don't know. It's kind of, but I'm not sure. And there's me, and then there's John Hamer. That's really cool. I just think it's so cool that Cheryl thought that she had basically 20 paintings of prominent people to do, and she considered me to be one of those people, apparently, that was worthy of being painted. So thank you, Cheryl Bruno. I feel really honored, and just I'm kind of gobsmacked by that. So NBR, I'm going to count. This will be my 3rd year that I've made an appearance at Sunstone, because via this time through the painting that Cheryl did. Also heard a lot of good things from people. They had a great time. This is the first time that John DeLynn has been to Sunstone in years. As a matter of fact, I had heard from Moroni Jessup Lopez, who said, yeah, John DeLynn's a really nice guy. I met him for the first time at Sunstone. I'm like, really? So then, I texted John. I'm like, I hear you're at Sunstone. He's like, yeah. He says, it's about time. It's about time I got back to this. And so glad to see John DeLynn back at Sunstone as well. It's good. We all know I'm friends with everybody. So that doesn't mean I'm an anti-Mormon because I'm friends with John DeLynn. No, because I also have, I've been on Stick of Joseph and other faithful programs, Saints Unscripted. So obviously that doesn't mean I'm taking sides on this. We're the only neutral Mormon podcast, folks. Remember that. So that's why we're able to be friends with everybody. Let me see here. Let's see. Oh, Carolyn. Yeah, you're very active tonight, Carolyn. Even in families, we disagree. Never mind the hater, Steve. You are exactly where you're meant to be, and such inspiration. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so now I want to just start and talk a little bit about really the tragic situation. It really grieves my heart with the ministry Adams Road. I've been in touch with a couple of family members. Not gonna. Well, I don't really want to even give names at this point, but I just want to let you know that they're hurt, very hurt. They're devastated, and I told them to keep them in their prayers, and I also told them that, listen, if I can do anything to help, just let me know. One of the sad things that came about was I was informed that there are a lot of Christians have been attacking them, and I told them, I said, listen, I said, I get attacked all the time too. But it always hurts the most when it comes from your own camp. I know what that's like firsthand. And I'm just so sad that people would use this as an opportunity to pile on people when they're hurting. So Christians out there, especially, who are attacking the Wilders, stop. Please stop. Keep them in your prayers. Like my mom's favorite teacher, Melissa Scott. She's a biblical teacher that my mom's been watching for years. Says we are all cracked. Okay, I think we're all cracked vessels with feet of clay, and we need to constantly be reformed by the master potter. And so let's just be humble in our approach here. And I have often found that the people who are the ones that attack people, want to get into debates, and people who will attack people's character, they're often the ones that are some of the worst when it comes to personal moral failings. Let's just put it that way. And so that often gets exposed. Hey, I'm an imperfect person. I'm a broken vessel. Okay. I've never claimed to be anything but that. Okay. And I'm going to let you down because I'm a dude. I'm a human. And we're going to let each other down, and sometimes sometimes you let people down and you don't even realize you did, but maybe something you said, maybe you were insensitive, whatever. That happens. And we need to learn to be able to be forgiving of people and also willing to forgive ourselves. And I'm just really saddened by what happened. Now, for those of you who don't know anything about the story, this is a book that was a friend of mine actually went to hear them in concert, told them about me, and then said, I'd like for you to sign the book. And that's Micah's signature. And the people at Adams Road, they've known about me for years. We've had periodic conversations, very, very, just a little bit here and there. I did meet Lynn Wilder when we both spoke at a dinner dedicated to Gerald and Sandra Tanner, the legacy of them. And I was one of the speakers, and Lynn was there, and Lynn was wonderful and nice, and I really like her. And I will say that, of all the Christian ministries that were out there, I really felt in many ways they left this. Micah was a Mormon missionary who converted to evangelical Christianity while he's on his mission. And then they started this band called Adams Road, and they've been touring for a long time. And I even have an aunt, doesn't know anything about Mormonism. She was telling me, oh yeah, I just read a book about them. And that was this book. And that was last year. So a lot of Christians learned about Mormonism and the story of Adams Road and stuff from this book. It's put out by Harvest House Publishers, which is a major Christian publisher. And, I don't really even want to get into the details. I actually haven't dug too deep in what happened. I read what Matt Wilder posted on his Facebook page the other day, which was a link from a church that talked about it. And then I saw that Sandra Tanner posted something about it on her Facebook page, a link to something that Eric Johnson wrote. And the reason why I bring this up is because Micah wrote the foreword to this book, Introducing Christianity to Mormonism, and a practical and comparative guide to what the Bible teaches. And Eric announced that Harvest House, again, another Harvest House published, pulled all the books and destroyed them. And they're going to redo this book. Now, it's funny because Eric actually sent me this book a couple years ago, and I read through it and actually had kind of a check about this because he wanted to come on to talk about it. I had a check about this reading this book. Now, I don't think it was because of Micah's introduction or forward, because I would later have another crew on that Micah wrote on, a book that Micah had wrote in. And so I don't know if it was that, but I did talk to a Christian brother about this book at a conference once, and he went and told me, he said, Steve, this is not a really good book. Christians should not be using this book as a resource because of the second-rate scholars that are referenced in this book. So I just want to say, Eric, I don't know if you watched me. I don't know. I've sent you links to videos of mine. I never hear back from you. I feel a little saddened by you attacking me publicly last December when I was in Utah, when we had the day before we were communicating to each other privately. Why would you do that? Why would you attack me for attending the Bickertonite baptism? It doesn't make any sense. And do it publicly. So I'm kind of calling you out a little bit, but it's been a while. I'm just saddened because you continue to attack me, and I don't think that this is good. So I just want to say, if you want, Eric, again, I'm a forgiving person. And I can probably give you some resources of some people and some scholars that might be able to help you if you're going to redo the book. Let's maybe get some better footnotes in here, or better resources that you could use in this book. And again, I'm not about proselytizing, but if Christian scholars are going to do work, I want them to do the best scholarship, because everybody benefits from good scholarship, not secondary scholarship, not from people who have inflated, you know, credentials that are not, you know, that are from diploma mills, essentially being used as being top resources, or unaccredited in universities. It's basically the same in many people's mind. So yeah, I just want to say that I'm just saddened by the state of where a lot of these Christian groups have gone. I'm saddened by what happened with Adams Road. And again, I'm not piling on them at all. These are human beings, okay? And people make mistakes, and I'm not their judge. And I just want to let everybody know that anybody who's in that family, reach out to me anytime. I'd love to, anything I can do to help. But I also really feel like sometimes we as Christians, and all of us who are in this arena, we need to step back a little bit and ask ourselves, is all of this fighting each other really productive? When people from the world look at us battling, they just think it's ridiculous. In their mind, the secular folks are like, well, these are people like who believe in the Chronicles of Narnia versus the people that believe in the Lord of the Rings arguing. That's kind of how they see us, folks. We're kind of a joke to them. That's how they see us. And my whole thing is like, you know, we as 21st century Christians need to look at the facts and realize that, you know, there's a reason why people are fleeing the evangelical church. There's a reason why people are leaving the Latter-day Saint church. I think in many ways it's the same reasons. And I think we all need to look into the mirror and say, you know, rather than point fingers at each other, maybe look in the mirror and say, what am I doing wrong? Maybe I need to work on that plank in my eye as opposed to the speck. And look, I'm not perfect, man, and I'm always open to correction. I receive wise counsel from Christian ministers all the time, whether it's my own pastor or other pastors that I talk to throughout the world. I'm always getting counsel from pastors, okay? And I get, you know, and so I just want to let you know that I am held accountable. I have pastors that are above me. And so I do think that's important, to not be just a total lone ranger, which I'm not. And I do attend a local church. So for those of you who'd like to attack me for not attending a local church, I'm sorry, I was looking for one, okay? I spent a couple years looking for one. And then I was told, okay, when you find a local church, Steve, then I'll talk to you. Okay, great. Oh, I got a local church. Oh, it's the wrong local church, Steve. Oh, so this person keeps on. This is another Christian apologist who just go, oh, it's so frustrating. I don't know why these people don't want to talk to me. It's usually because they have something to hide, or they're, well, I have reasons to know why they didn't. But okay, let's see. Sorry, I'm gobsmacked. Caught you live. Oh yeah, Carolyn, I'll stop now. Oh, Carolyn didn't know that I. Devo says I would consider myself pretty neutral in LDS discussions. Devo says, Devo Bronk, LL woke ads before seeing this stream. Oh, that's so funny. China Clay, sure do appreciate your attitude, Steve. Oh, and good to hear from you again, China. Yeah, it's nice to see another familiar name in there. So I don't know. I just feel sad about my relationship with some of the Christian ministries in Utah. I'm friends with many of the pastors in there. There are many great Christian ministries there in Utah. I've publicly endorsed them on record on Faithful Latter-day Saint shows. I've also criticized them on Faithful Latter-day shows and a little bit on my channel. But that's fine. You know, I'm trying to show that us evangelicals are not some kind of monolith and we all think the same way. I am not a gatekeeper. And I'm not going to have people gatekeep me. Anybody who says that I'm not a true evangelical, or that I'm not a true Christian, or they call me a progressive, or they call me all these other things that are not patently not true, okay, I'm going to call them out. And again, is it because you've done your research and you're willfully lying about me, or you haven't done your research? And I have a feeling that it's they haven't done their research. So these researchers, as I like to call themselves, aren't doing a whole lot of research. And I'm saddened by this. And that even that Mormon apologist who attacked me, some people are like, well, he doesn't really know much about you. And it was like, if he doesn't know much about me, then he should not be saying anything about me. This person I know reads a lot of books and studies and immerses himself in stuff. And I'm sorry, but if you're going to spout off and give opinions on people, You need to do your research. If somebody criticizes me doing the research, like, well, in this episode, Steve said this, this, and this, I mean, okay, I'll at least respect you. But to go on this stereotype that Steve's not a real evangelical or all these kind of things, it just sickens me. And I'm not going to have people gatekeeping. Now I'm glad that we are big enough here at MBR that people know who we are and we are having an impact. I mean, just think of that painting. I mean, it's just something small, but think of that painting that Cheryl did of me. Just think about that, of the people that were on there. Like, that's pretty wild. And there aren't any, none of those apologists who attack me are on any of those paintings, I'll add, either. So I think that's interesting. Okay, let me think what else here. Okay, for those of you who'd like to donate in the chat and get a shout out from me live, you can do that. I try not to do much about money here. I feel like it's just not something I feel terribly comfortable with. But I do want to say that we do have our merch store, mormonbookreviews.com. That's back up and running. We were down for a few weeks there because something with the payment issue. We got that fixed. So check out our website if you're interested. And again, if you're interested, I would love it. I love it when people send me pictures of their hoodies or coffee mugs or hats and say, hey, got one. That's always cool to me to know. And also when I go to conferences and see people wearing my merch is really kind of fun to see. And yeah, so, okay, I think let me go through my list, make sure I cover. Oh, and I want to also say, and I meant to say this at the beginning, that July was the worst month I've had in years in my channel, with viewers and new subscribers and revenue and everything. It's like worse in years. You know what? I don't care. I don't care, because my health, getting back on track, is more important. I haven't done any traveling this year. Maybe I'll get out to John Whitmer Historical Association in St. George, Utah this year. I don't know. We're just going to let the Lord makes the plans. God told me early on in this whole process, don't make any plans, Steve. So let me say, okay, yeah. So Canadian Anglican asks, may I ask, are there progressive evangelicals? I've always been curious. Yes, there are. There are progressive evangelicals, and they are a shrinking group. The people who put out the Sojourners magazine would have come out of the progressive evangelical camp. And again, you have to keep in mind, William Jennings Bryan, okay, one of the most prominent evangelicals in the history of the United States. I mean, this was the man who ran for president multiple times, was the Secretary of State under Woodrow Wilson. Many people know him from the Scopes trial. William Jennings Bryan was a progressive evangelical Christian. Okay, so this goes way back. This is not something. So I want to defend that there are progressive evangelicals, and they should have a place in our movement, because if they don't, then we become fringe. Like, I love that there's progressives and conservatives in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, in the Catholic Church, and other churches. I think when you decide to go, we're just going to become a progressive church, or we're just going to become just a conservative church, you then become terribly politicized, and then everything gets lined up with American politics. Red, blue, who are you voting for? By the way, everybody give a thumbs up on this so this gets in front of more people, and go for there. So yes, there are, and actually I go to an evangelical church that can be considered a small p progressive church. I do not, just so people know, and I've been on record for years now, I'm a libertarian Christian. Why can't there be libertarian Christians, huh? That's what I am. So you have progressive Christians, you got conservative Christians, and you got libertarian Christians. And I am part of what could be identified as the part of the new evangelical movement, which certainly, but in some cases, can be considered progressive. But I wish to represent the conservative wing or the libertarian conservative right of center, maybe, wing of the evangelical movement. Okay. Well, it's 8:34 here in Florida, Eastern time. It's very hot outside. And let me share with you the birthday present that in a month, it's going to be my birthday. And Cameron sent me this, and I got it in the mail yesterday. And I told him I was going to wear it on the live stream. So Smith Rigdon, 44. I'm thinking, based on our choices of who we have to vote for president this year, I might just write these two guys in. Either vote in probably a third party, or maybe I'm going to write in. Then can you imagine I'm going to tell people, so yeah, I voted for Joseph Smith and Sidney for president, Sidney Rigdon for vice president. That would be kind of a fun thing to be able to tell people, because all these things are such a mess in this country. And I feel so bad, because I was a major player in the, I don't want to make it up. I was fairly significant person in the Republican Party back in the day. I was the state vice chairman of the Indiana College Republicans, and I ran for office, and all this kind of stuff. So I hate to see what's happened to my party, but more importantly, I hate to see what's happened to our country. Oh my gosh, it's a mess here. So Canadian Anglican, looks like Pierre is going to be your new prime minister next year. So I'd be curious to see what your thoughts are on that. I could do a show. I'm even thinking of doing a channel on Canadian politics, because yes, I'm a total geek about Canadian politics, by the way. Okay, Canadian Anglican. I'm progressive Anglican, but my 9 brothers and sisters range across the spectrum, so I enjoy Christians from all groups. Well, isn't it awesome? Canadian Anglican, we could use more people like you in this world. Charles, is this a joke, or would you really vote for Joseph Smith? Well, I like to have fun on Friday nights, okay? So I'm probably going to keep a secret of who I'm actually going to vote for, but I don't know what I'm going to do. I mean, it's just kind of a mess in this country, and but again, I just want to thank Cameron for the wonderful shirt, Smith Rigdon. I'm going to wear this out in public, and I imagine people would be like, "What?" And I get to tell them the history about the very first person ever assassinated in history of the United States, very first presidential candidate ever assassinated in this United States was Joseph Smith. And there's many Latter-day Saints that don't even know that. When I tell that to the Mormon missionaries, their eyes get really big, like, really? So it's kind of fun. And I'm hoping to do something to take the Mormon missionaries out for lunch again soon as well. All right, folks. Well, I hope you all have a good weekend. I love all of you. Appreciate it. It's kind of my therapy to turn on the camera and start talking to my peeps. I love that we have an active chat going every time. And let me see what Canadian Anglican has to say. And if you want to donate, I'm going to stick around for another minute. So if you want to shout out and donate in the chat, you can do it now. Let's see. Canadian Anglican. I think it'd be hard for Pierre to win. A lot of Canadians suspect he's been in with Beijing. Okay. Not to say people aren't happy with Justin. He's done a lot to anger Canadians. Yeah. And most of the polling data shows that the Conservatives are going to win. I mean, if the election were held right now, the Conservatives would win in a rout. And Justin Trudeau is terribly unpopular right now, from my understanding. And so, yeah, and Carolyn, my birthday is a month from today. So September 9th, I share the same birthday with President Nelson. So maybe I'll do a dual birthday party for President Nelson. Either way, I just want to tell everybody I love you and I appreciate you. I think you're all awesome. I love talking to all the different people from different perspectives. You got people that love Joseph Smith. You got people that don't love Joseph Smith. You got people that are restorationists. You have people that are not. You have ex-Mormons. You have evangelicals. You have a lot of nevermos, Lutherans, Catholics, atheists, pagans, transgender people, LGBTQ people. Everybody has the opportunity to have their voice here. And I always like to talk about that one time where last year, February, where we packed in the movie theater on a Monday night in downtown Salt Lake City at Broovies. And we did a movie screening there. And it was co-sponsored me and it was co-sponsored by Mormonish, and it was co-sponsored by Mormon Stories Foundation and myself. And I think a couple other organizations were sponsors of it. And in that room, the theater was completely packed. There was not an empty seat. And in that room, and I pointed this out right before the movie started, was we have, and Sandra Tanner was there, and she was I introduced her, and we honored Sandra while we were there. But in that room, there were Latter-day Saints, there were fundamentalists, which are polygamists, there were evangelical Christians, there were ex-Mormons, there were church employees, and there were LGBTQ people all under one roof, which to me was one of the most important, beautiful moments that has always been representative of this audience. And so I think that's great. And I'm just trying to model how it can be done, how we can be civil in these uncivil times, how we can love fellow image bearers and not have to attack each other. That's why I've been so reluctant to really lash out. Sometimes I want to lash out. Sometimes the old Steve Pynakker who's a fighter, a political street fighter, literally a political street fighter from near Chicago, Northwest Indiana, and we get going at it with Teamsters. Okay. That's this world I'm in. This is nothing compared to the political stuff I had to deal with. So that was training for all of this. I am not afraid to fight, but there's always a time in a season, and I am a peacemaker primarily. I'm a bridge builder. And we want to tear down walls and build bridges. And that's what we're going to do here at MBR. But sometimes you do have to stand up for what's right. Let's see. Canadian Anglican. Growing up, I wanted to be Mormon because I thought I could have many husbands. That's great. Amy Baker says, I'm same as you, conservative, leaning libertarian. Thanks, Amy. Yes, and Canadian Anglican. Amen. All are welcome at God's table. I think that's a great comment to end it on tonight. So, most people who watch these actually watch them after they've aired. I want to encourage you that typically Friday nights around 6 p.m. Mountain Time. I usually schedule these a few hours before, so it's kind of last minute because sometimes I'm not sure if I'm going to hop on or not. Depends on how I feel, but I usually get the energy back up. I'm learning how to live without caffeine in my life, so it's still adjusting. I got a lot of adjusting that I have to make in my life, but I have it in me. So I come up on Friday nights. I love having these kind of conversations. So, okay, this is it, folks. I love you all. What do we say at the end of the show every time? Remember, all the voices of the restoration will be heard here on Mormon Book Review.